Hello and welcome to Miss Hannah Loves Grammar. In this video we'll be looking at the theme of infatuation across the love and relationships cluster of AQA poems at GCSE. For now though, let's define what infatuation is. It's often considered to be intense admiration, often associated with a really short-lived passion, and it's most commonly associated with romantic poetry. The poems that we'll be thinking about, although not exhaustive for the whole cluster, here are Sonnet 29 by Elizabeth Barrett Browning, Love's Philosophy by Percy Bysshe Shelley. Now others could be linked, but these are the two that both show the purest form of positive or interesting infatuation. So let's start with Sonnet 29. It's interesting that Browning uses the sonnet form because it's most sincerely used with love poetry, and it's often seen as a really beautiful form to share the dilemma of love in the octave, the first 8 lines, and then resolve it in its sestet. But here we have I Think of Thee. It's the title as well as the opening line of this poem, and its repetition but also the direct address. She's simply saying, I think of you. It's inviting the reader to understand the infatuation fully and also helping us to really feel how engaged our speaker is with their emotions. If it wasn't clear from the words themselves, the exclamation mark is emotional and showing how much pleasure is being given over by this pensive lover. The title, for me, mirroring the opening line, makes it abundantly clear to us. This speaker is so excited by the intensive passion they feel towards another. As the poem unfolds, the extended metaphor of the natural image of a tree growing with wild vines about a tree, it's almost the metaphor of her mind with every, twine and bud. It's as if natural imagery here heightens the sense that her feelings are growing more intense and more serious in every sense. And then the rhyming in this opening line or two, from I think of thee to tree, the internal rhyme adds to the overwhelming reality of her fascination. She's really intensively preoccupied by this thought. It's overspilling into the rhyme scheme, into the extended imagery of this poem, but it seems incredibly exciting. The final quote is a little bit more wayward. It's a bit more risque, especially for its original readership in Victorian times. Set thy trunk all bare. Well, that to me seems like an erotic reference. It's a bit phallic. It's as if her mind keeps wandering on all the potentials of being with this lover, maybe emotionally, in reality, and physically. The excited language, though, just depicts more than anything how infatuation here is joyful and endearing. Browning seems really quite well qualified to share the joys of the initial stages of love. It's so heightened by the idea that she admires the one she wants to be with. The fact the final line of this poem is saying, I do not think of thee, for you're too near, is as if to say, the reality of who you are cannot be less than what I've dreamt of. It's more perfect. Love's Philosophy takes a completely different angle of infatuation. The speaker here really pores over the idea of philosophy. By definition, philosophy is the love of wisdom. And we definitely get the sense that our speaker not only loves wisdom, but loves nature. And loves to use nature as the way to showing the imagery of a true romantic with a capital R. Now, Shelley himself was a romantic. He did not like the constraints of organisations demanding and dictating people's desires. So the natural imagery here has a genuine impetus. The first quote of nothing in the world is single his infatuation, his major desire out of this whole poem. Our speaker seeks to be with the one he wishes to know. It's quite dramatic imagery, but additionally, we've got a rhyme with single and mingle. It's just like nature. They are united, so does the rhyme. I think the image of the world having nothing that's alone is important. It's exaggerational, it's powerful, and it hits home. It is the logic of the whole poem. It's important to note, though, that the end line in each stanza poses a question. Quite a vulnerable question. Like, why not I with thine? Why am I not with you, is what it really translates as. And it seems quite vulnerable considering the first 6 lines of every stanza are much more confident. From this point of view anyway, as a reader in the 21st century, it would seem to me that infatuation here is what fuels the whole logic of this poem. And it's the simplicity of I with thine which makes it so endearing. All he wants is to be with you. The final question that we get at the very end of the poem, what is all this sweet work worth if thou kiss not me? Seems pretty straightforward. The alliteration of what work worth helps call into question the whole point of existing without feeling the embracing of someone you love. But more than that, I think Shelley is really speaking beyond, with exaggeration and, breaking each stanza at the end with a question on a separate line to graphologically, that means by its pure layout, show us that a physical divide between the speaker and the one he wants to be with is not good for anyone. I love the simplicity of the language in both these poems for Infatuation. Infatuation to me has not got negative connotations, hence why I am making a separate video on Obsession, which I'd recommend you watching. From my point of view though, Infatuation is joyful, exciting and hopeful. Obsession takes a darker, more negative turn. Why not subscribe to Miss Hannah Loves Grammar?